Well, here we are again, Mark. Another episode of Live Business Stories. And today we have a terrific story to tell, and we're really pleased to be here with Mandy Lovett, who owns the Eye Gallery two stores in Geelong, one in Highton and a new one down in Armstrong Creek. So welcome, Mandy, and I look forward to hearing your story today.
And it's great, Bill. We've had a couple of interesting guests over the last couple of weeks, and walking into Mandy's lovely spot in the Eye Gallery up here at Highton is fantastic. A really nice ambience. As soon as you walk in, you feel very welcoming. So Mandy's got a lovely smile on her face. So over to you, Mandy. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Mark and Bill. Nice to have you in the store and in my office at the back. Not quite as nice as the store at the front.
But this is the working area.
That's
what
right.
It's all about.
And thank you for listening to my story. So happy to talk about a whole lot of things and what's happened over the journey.
All right, well, we'll start off with, how did you get into this type of business, into the eyewear business?
Yeah, that is a good question because as a kid, I always loved colour and fabrics. And I started sewing, and my mother was a sewer, and I sewed everything. So when I came to Australia, I actually did a course at the Gordon, studied fashion design. And in the days that I was growing up, my parents said, there's no work in fashion, you've got to work in the bank. And my mum worked in the bank and I worked in the bank, and that was my job, but my passion was sewing. And so I did fashion design, and then I tried to get into the fashion industry. By this time I was nearly 40, and because I'd been working in banking and insurance before that. And I got this job in fashion eyewear, and all my Christmases had come at once. I just couldn't believe that here I was working with all the brands, all the designer brands and fashion. And so then I went and studied optics. So that's basically the start.
Well, that's good. And I noticed that you moved to Australia from South Africa. What was that all about?
Yes, that's right. Well, you see, my parents were British, and I grew up in different parts of Africa, in Kenya and Tanzania and South Africa. And when the uprising started, I was 21, and I was actually saving to go overseas to meet all my relatives in England. And I just happened to meet an Australian in Johannesburg. And my dad had a hotel in Johannesburg where all the backpackers used to stay, and I met this Australian, and he was from Geelong. So we met up again in England, and then he invited me to Australia. So I arrived here in 1977, a long time ago now, but this is my home.
That's a fantastic story. And do you still have relatives and family in South Africa, or?
No, not anymore. They've all left and gone back to England. So Dad left first, and then Mum left later. She believed that it was going to improve, and it never did. And so they lost financially and then went and started up again. My parents actually divorced, and Dad went down to Cornwall, where he came from, and Mum went to the north of England, where she was from, and she had to go to work in her 60s, and I thought that was tough, really. But look, she worked up until she was 74, so quite an amazing woman,
wow,
really.
That's fantastic. So when was the first premises that you opened yourself?
So when I actually worked for another company here in Geelong for 13 years, and I wanted to do things a bit differently, and I couldn't, working for someone else. I did offer lots of ideas, but they didn't like my ideas. So I decided it was time to do it my way. And so that was 15 years ago. I started my own business in West Geelong. And in hindsight, there's so many things that you learn along the way that you realise, I could have done this or I could have done that. I took on some premises that were around the corner off Packington Street, and I was forever telling people how to find my shop. But most of my clients were coming from Highton, so I decided that I needed to move to Highton. But it coincided with the gentleman that owned the business here in Highton was retiring, so I actually bought his business and moved my business over here.
Oh, perfect.
That's good, Mark, because I think you've heard me say before, you've got to fish where the fish are. And what you're saying, they're over this side of the river. Is
That's
that
right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So tell me, I just mentioned to you that I was going to have some eye surgery done soon. Why should I come to your business to look for new glasses when I'm in that market?
Yes, I think it's more than just glasses. One of the most important things is seeing the optometrist, and we work very closely with our optometrist. So I'm actually an optical dispenser, so my training has all been with optical dispensing, or in the old days we would be called an optician. So I don't do the eye test, I do the making of the glasses. So you could almost say like the optometrist is the doctor and I'm the pharmacist. So I solve the problem. So you go and see the optometrist to work out what the problem is, and I'm the one that will solve it with lenses and frames to fit and take the measurements to suit your prescription.
So you've got your optometrist on site, Mandy?
Yes, we do. We have 4 optometrists that all work around each other, because basically I started the business employing women that that wanted to get back into the workforce after having children. And it was really hard to get back into the workforce after having children. And so it grew from there. But I've got 2 men that work with us as well.
It's all right, we're not that scary.
And we've been working together for quite a long time now, but everyone has other things that they're interested in as well. They have their family life, they have their other career or interests going on. One of our optometrists is head of clinical studies at Deakin University, so she's in optometry there. And she chooses to work with us, which is wonderful. We have another gentleman who works the share market and works with us part-time. And then we've got Gina, she's from Egypt, actually. She's absolutely fabulous, lovely character. And she has a young child at school. And then Andrew, who's only just joined us, they've just had a baby. So we've got quite a mix of people, but they're all working around lifestyle and their husbands' and wives' careers and so forth. So it fits in, because if anyone goes on holiday, we've always got someone else to replace them.
I have to commend you with that, because so many businesses don't make the adjustments to suit the various people they want. They sort of have this, I need somebody to be here 38 hours a week, that's it, that's what I want. As opposed to, you're the right person, now how do I work with you to make it work for both of us?
That's right. That's actually gone across the board, even with our dispensers, because the dispensers, I've got 4 dispensers and I'm the 5th one, but 3 of them have a day off during the week. So that means I'm short one person 3 days a week. So I work those 3 days, you see. I'm finding it more difficult now, because as the business has grown and got busier, I need to work more on the business rather than in the business. And so now I've also got the Armstrong Creek business, which is new. So I'm juggling the extra person from there to fill in for Highton as well. So, and we've had so many people off with COVID, flu, personal reasons with like death or things that have happened, that this year has been the most challenging so far.
Yeah, it is challenging for everybody. That's what I'm finding with my clients. Now, just talking about your business over the last, since I guess 2019 and then COVID came along, you've actually survived COVID, which was interesting because you couldn't really have people in the store during that COVID lockdown. But you also had another store in central Geelong, and you've closed that store and you've taken a bold move and hopefully a very successful move and opened another store in Armstrong Creek. So just tell us a bit about your COVID period.
Yes, well, that certainly was challenging. I bought Frank Dennehy's practice in Mallop Street the end of 2018. He had passed away and he was well known in Geelong, and he had a following of people, and I knew him personally as well as through the business. And so I decided that it was an opportunity to step in where there was all the new government departments developing, like WorkSafe, NDIS, TAC, Deakin University and the new council offices, and I thought this is just going to be wonderful. And then 2019, the council was still finishing off the pavement outside NDIS and WorkSafe. So we had issues with parking and all the roadworks. Anyway, we got through that. And then 2020, we had COVID, but that wasn't the problem exactly. It was Bowen Water decided to lift the whole pavement again and put in all new piping and so forth. And that was another year of pavement works. And then in 2021, the council or state government decided to lift the pavement again to do the green spine. So that was 3 years of interruption to all the businesses there, and it was all to do with one pavement. It's still not finished because there's the other side of the road still to go. So I just feel a little bit upset with what happened. So I actually call it COVID and council.
Right. 2 C's. Right.
Yes.
So you closed that store.
I closed that store. I mean, I did ask the landlord if I could extend it for 6 months, and he said no, in the hope that I'd probably stay on. But I just decided, no, that was it. I'm not going to do another 3 years. And so it just meant closing everything up and starting afresh in Armstrong Creek. So that actually involved another outlay of money. Because Armstrong Creek is a new area, and of course I had bigger premises and I needed to set everything up, and I decided to go for new equipment, and so it was an upgrade. Yes, so and that opened in January this year. So basically we finished Mallup Street last year in August, and we opened in January in Armstrong Creek. So that is, being a new area, it's a little bit slower, but Armstrong Creek at the moment is all about health and food. So they've got doctors, physios, dental, optical, the gym, and then they've got all the food outlets you can imagine. They've got Tom's Marketplace, Coles, obviously, the butcher, the Indian supermarket. So it's all food and health.
So it's a calculated investment in the future.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
And talking about, I guess, competition, you're up against some real big elephants in the area of eye care.
Yes.
So, where do you sit with that, and does that faze you when you know that the big ones are really hammering out, they've got the dollars behind them and are doing a lot of business? So what's your strategy
absolutely.
to overcome that?
Well, a lot of the big businesses carry products that they own. Mm-hmm. So they have them made, they buy the brands. So the ones that I carry are also well-known brands, but they're not owned by the big companies. So they're independents. I am part of a buying group, so I deal with a lot of small businesses all around Australia, really, but part of this buying group so that we can get a better price for our products. So we are carrying beautiful designer eyewear, but just not the ones that are owned by the big companies. The other thing is that I actually believe in being independent. I'm not a small business that carries the brands from the big products, the big companies. Some small businesses will still buy their product from those big companies. So I'm really one of the rare true independents. And I think that is a point of difference. I've actually, in 2020, I designed my own eyewear range, made in South Australia. I haven't actually been able to take it much further yet. We've pretty much sold what I made, but I need more time. So I want mine Australian made, Australian frames and Australian lenses. So that is something that I want to go further with, but need to find the time.
And do you see yourself doing more of that, Mandy? Doing your own designs?
Oh, the designing would just be fantastic
because that's your passion.
Yes, it gets back to colour and style and design. Yes, absolutely.
And what's stopping you?
Yes. Well, it's staffing. Staffing is one of the issues, as I said, with COVID and so forth. When you get the flu now, you don't come to work. When you get the hint of a cold, you don't come to work. So that is quite challenging. So that's why I have to be ready to step in at any time. My time off is spent with grandchildren, I've got to say. It just happened all of a sudden. 7 years ago, I've got 8 grandchildren, and they're all 7 years and down to baby. And so my weekends are spent with them. So, the designing has to wait.
Well, I was going to ask you about Mandy the person and find out a bit more about you personally and what you do outside of work, but I've just found out the answer to what you do.
Yes.
Because even Mark was in my office before, and there's one of my grandchildren there at school holidays, and mum's working and one's at holiday camp, and
yes.
It's just the way it is, isn't it?
Yes.
But tell us a bit about Mandy the person.
Oh, well, I suppose that's a bit of a long story in a way. I suppose starting off in Africa, I grew up with, we had nannies and my parents worked, and then I went to boarding school. In fact, I was just recently telling my grandchildren about boarding school and they couldn't understand it. And then, so I learned to be independent at a young age, and because of the uprising in South Africa, I had made up my mind that I was leaving. And my plan was to go to England, but then I met an Australian and came to Australia. And I was like any new Australian, I happened to speak English. I had a bit of a different accent at that stage. And I found it hard to get work at first, but I did eventually get work and settled in, and Geelong has become my home. And I had 2 children, did up houses and sold houses with my husband. Still travelled over to see my family every now and then, not too often in those days, but as time went by, it became a bit more financially easier to do. My husband and myself actually separated because we had different directions to go into. And funnily enough, during COVID, we've got back to being really good friends, but we are still separate. But we do support each other in lots of ways. We have those common interests with grandchildren and with houses and gardens, and so we've still got that strong friendship with all those interests. So the last 3 years actually has been quite interesting, because I didn't think that my life would be like this. But yes, I do. I love gardening. I love producing fruit and vegetables, particularly for the grandkids. I want them to be able to pick something out of the garden.
That's very good. That's very good. And where do you see your business going, Mandy? What's your long-term vision? 5 years' time, if we're sitting and chatting to you again, 5 stores spread across Geelong? What?
Well, there is that possibility. I did think about when I did the Armstrong Creek one, I decided to change my image with the business and went through rebranding. And I have thought about how to go about it. It is actually quite a big, stressful thing to do. And we did it quite quickly. And I'm just looking at staffing issues. I'm not sure exactly where my direction will be, because I personally want to step out of working full-time. I have actually cut back a bit, and I want to spend the time with the grandkids and actually designing. So I'll see how it goes. I've got people interested in buying into the business. Now, if that's a possibility, I would love that, because it just means that I could continue doing what I do, but maybe share some of it with other staff members or other people.
Well, you are a sole trader, or a sole trader family business, and in my work and family business, not many have real succession plans. So if you walked out tomorrow and unfortunately the bus came along and you didn't see it, what happens to your business? And this is a question that most small business owners can't answer. What do you think the answer to that is?
Well, I've set things up with my lawyer that that there is power of attorney to sort things out. But the thing is that I am actually in discussions with a bigger business about the future. I have actually had them on the back burner for a few years, and that's still going on because the thing is, that is an option.
Yeah, but it's on your mind and you're starting to do something about it. That's the important thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and often in my past experience again, and in my own my father's business, is that issue was never addressed, and no one ever had those conversations. And I've got 2 or 3 businesses I've been working closely with over the years where the owner or the founder died unexpectedly, and no one knew what to do. So yeah, it's as long as you're aware of it, you've got the thought process in mind, and that you're having the conversations. That's really what all more privately owned business should be doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Actually, it's one of the... When I started my business, I had the sale of my business in mind because I thought that it's not just about working for myself forever. I really do want to on-sell it at some stage.
So, Mandy, just one couple of other little questions. Driving to work, what do you think about when you're coming to work in the morning? What's going through your mind?
I usually listen to the ABC and hear what's going on with regards to everything, what's happening on the day. And it can be all sorts of things. At the moment we're talking about treaty and what's changing with, the Aboriginality and their future. And I think that's actually something that we all need to look at.
Yep.
And I rather like that because Aboriginal art is so creative and colourful, and I think it touches all of us. I'm a new Australian like so many others, so it's important for all of us to wake up.
That's good. And one final question. Given all your experience and change and growth, what's one thought that you would give somebody in a business that they should, from your learnings, what's the one thing you've learned over life in your business life?
One thing I would say is perseverance. Keep going. The winner is the one that keeps going. It's so easy to step out at any stage and say, look, I've had enough of this, I want to give up, I don't want to do it. But the person that keeps going is the one that wins.
Fantastic, Mandy. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and I wish you all success in the future. And I'm sure Armstrong Creek will grow and grow and grow, and before you know it, you'll have a thriving little business again on your hands. Bill, anything you'd like to add?
No, I just want to thank you, Mandy, for allowing us to come along and hear your story, because it's I know you've done it all on your own, and that's a great achievement. And when you talk about persistence, with persistence goes a positive mindset. And I think that's what...
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what you've got.
That's something that we haven't even really talked about.
That's maybe for another podcast.
Yes.
We can do that. So thank you very much and good luck in your store.
Thank you very much, Bill and Mark. I appreciate it.